Are you an investigative professional? Did you know you can find the best private investigator resources using investigatorstoolbox.com? This resource community was built exclusively for licensed investigators and investigative professionals. You can network directly with members.
Hey, you want to join Toolbox for half price? Act now. For this week only, use code EPISODE157 and save $100 on this amazing community. A one-year membership will only cost you $100. Act now. This week on September 15th from 9 a.m. until 5:30 p.m., Scope Now will host a live OSINT training, and you won't believe this amazing lineup. It's available to you free. Just visit scopenow.com/OSINT-live. Links in the show notes. Welcome to PI Perspectives. Today we bring you the next installment for this year's OSMOSIS conference in St. Pete, Florida from October 16th through the 18th. This episode we welcome Peter Warmka, Cara Gallus, and Allison Sullivan. Peter's talking about the deepfakes and AI. Cara discusses foreign language and OSINT, and Allison will be on an OSINT expert panel discussing trends and threats. So please welcome our first guest, Peter Warmka, and your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to the next segment of PI Perspectives, the OSMOSIS version. Today I have a new guest, somebody who I've never met before and I've never actually talked to before, so I'm pretty excited. Peter Warmka, welcome to the episode. How are you?
Thank you, Matt. It's a pleasure to meet you, and it's a pleasure to have this opportunity to speak to your audience.
Yeah, so you're going to be talking at OSMOSIS this year. It's actually the first OSMOSIS you'll be attending, so you are in for a treat, sir.
I'm looking so much forward to it because I've wanted to attend in the past. I haven't had the opportunity because of other conflicts, but I've heard so many great things about it through other people who have attended, and I'm just so pleased to have the opportunity to both attend, but even the honor of being able to present during the conference.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. I'm looking forward to actually checking out your topic because it's very timely these days. So before we jump into the topic, tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, okay. In my previous life, but it's my previous career. I served for over 23 years with the Central Intelligence Agency. Out of those 23, I spent 20 years overseas as an intelligence collector, meaning that I would get requirements from Langley, from our headquarters, for information that was closely held, difficult to obtain, non-public, intelligence. Mm-hmm. And I would have to find out where that information was going to be, where it was held, and what organizations and where within the organizations, and more importantly, identify the individuals, the insiders in these organizations who I could target. So spot, assess, develop these insiders, and eventually manipulate them to provide that information or to facilitate access to that information. So I turned them into insider threats, I guess is another way to look at it. So I did that specifically for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Until I retired and decided to see how I might use these skills in the private sector.
Right. What was that transition like? What were some of the challenges?
Well, you always hear from people that transfer from the public sector to the private sector. It's different. It's a different mindset. I think probably the most difficult one, believe it or not, is the marketing, because when you're a government bureaucrat, you don't have to worry about marketing yourself, right? Yeah. You might have other skills. You might be a manager, manage resources and everything, but no one does marketing. You don't have to. So that's probably the biggest challenge.
One of the challenges too is like not having that analyst working for you, right? It's like you are the analyst now, buddy.
It's true, but I actually did a lot of the analytical work I did on my own, especially when I was targeting organizations and even targeting individuals. So I got a lot of that of my own experience in doing that, fortunately.
So other than the marketing, what do you think is the biggest surprise? Like, oh, I didn't expect that going into the private field.
I thought things would be a little bit easier, to be honest with you. I thought that, I have specialized skills, as you can appreciate where I come from. Yeah. And I just thought that automatically there would be, I got an interest and understanding of the skills, but I think a lot of times there's that being able to translate, what the skills that I had and how they can be utilized in the private sector is a particular challenge. I mean, there's some people from my career also that cannot divulge at all that they've ever worked for the Central Intelligence Agency. I was fortunate, right time, right place, that I was able to come out, and I got authorization from the agency to what we call lower the cover, right? But a lot of colleagues of mine have not been able to do that. And so when you're out there trying to market yourself, you can't say that you were, working for the CIA. So that can be a huge challenge for it.
So they're just, professional garbage people, right? I'm an international garbage person. It's funny, like on one of my shows, actually, I had interviewed somebody who was working for the agency. And that was one of the biggest concerns she had starting off, even to the point of like posting her photo, she was like concerned about it. Like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Like, that whole thing of like, I'm not sure how to approach that. And fast forward a year later, I just saw her recently at a conference in Texas, and she's speaking at the conference, right? She's all over the place and like, putting her stuff out there. I was like, there you go, girlfriend. Like you understand where you need to be and what's.
Well, there's two ways. I mean, either you don't do anything because maybe you just want to retire and have nothing to do with your previous career, or you maintain your status as being undercover, and yet you can maybe find projects or work where you don't want a lot of security professionals or investigators, they won't put their face out there on social media because they don't want to be recognized, right?
I've seen that.
So, you might still have a really low profile and protect your profile because of that type of work. Or, you get out there like myself and a few others who want to get out there, who want to get known and to be able to talk about specifically the things that we've done with certain credibility.
Sure.
So that, otherwise people say, well, who's this person? Never heard of him before. And we see an image, a silhouette of him, but we have never seen his picture.
Right. So here's the interesting segue here. So we're talking about images and what you look like and everything like that. Let's talk about deepfakes, because that's what you're going to be talking about here. So
this area is huge. And the reason why I've decided to dive into this is because what I've had focused on and regarding my area of specialization and helping organizations to understand, how do threat actors, target organizations to breach their security, to breach, for these data breaches, right? You have criminal groups, you have state-sponsored intelligence services, you have
testing, right?
et cetera.
Right.
So, they're using a lot of the same methodologies that I use when I was out there doing this for the CIA. So I've worked with organizations to help them understand that through human hacking, through social engineering. Deepfakes takes social engineering, human hacking to a totally new level of sophistication and makes it so dangerous that people are already so susceptible to just basic social engineering. And now when we add deepfakes to it, it's incredible. And I think what we need to say though, is that deepfake technology in itself is not bad. It's not inherently evil. It's the intent of the user.
Malicious.
So there's a lot of tremendously good applications, great applications for deepfake technology, and I'm going to briefly share those during the session. But then I want to go in, and those are benefits where individuals know deepfake technology is being utilized for this. The danger is when deepfake technology is utilized without the individuals knowing, it's utilized for deception.
Right.
And there's a lot of different concerns for deception, but for me, one of the biggest is going to be utilizing it for you've heard of BEC scams. They're called business email compromise, but it's also done via the telephone. So it's kind of like the name is kind of limited, but it's overtaken ransomware as the most costly type of cyber crime that organizations face today. And another term we use in the industry is it's when a social engineer is vishing with a V someone, they're calling them up, pretending to be whoever they want to be, impersonating the boss, impersonating the client, impersonating another coworker located in another office space somewhere. And traditionally with phishing, they would could use spoof calling. You spoof the caller ID number. So the person on the other end, they see the call coming in. Oh, I recognize that number. I automatically trust that it's coming from this individual. Now with deepfakes, there's different levels of deepfakes. A lot of people may think of those videos that are faked, showing a celebrity all of a sudden saying some ridiculous things, or if you've seen the Tom Cruise, the Barack Obama.
No, the president of Ukraine, right? They had something recently where it looks like he's doing blow. He's like doing cocaine and like
together. So those type of deepfakes typically take several days to actually produce. They're not but over time, eventually they're going to be, maybe they'll become instantaneous eventually, but not yet. Right. But the danger is deepfake audio or voice cloning is something that's practically, it's practically instantaneous today. So with phishing, think about it. You receive a telephone call, you see the number, and you trust that's the person, and then you answer it, and it's the voice of that person, right? And there's been some deepfakes have only been around since 2017, but this is evolving so quickly, and there has been some major business email compromise scams that have taken place. One that is pretty well known by people that have followed this is a particular. In 2020, a bank manager in Hong Kong received a telephone call from who he thought was a client in the UAE. He saw the caller ID was from him, the voice was his, and they requested $35 million transfer to cover various acquisitions. Now, to me, that seems like a lot to go on by a phone call, right? But in any case, he really believed it was him. There was also some emails that were fabricated, substantiating the particular transaction. Emails between supposedly the client and the attorneys showing that they were going to make these acquisitions. The transfer was made. You imagine the surprise of the UAE client that when he saw the money was gone from the account. It became a big investigation by the UAE authorities, international investigation. Out of the 35 million, I'm not sure how much was recovered. Very little, but at least $400,000 was found in a bank, Centennial Bank in the United States, and so that was recovered. But you hear about a few of these. Most of the organizations don't want it to come out that they've been a target. They've been successfully targeted by these deep fakes, but they're happening. Maybe some of them are on a smaller scale than the 35 million, but they're becoming more and more commonplace, and it's only going to continue to get worse.
Yeah, I hear this and I immediately start thinking about Tom Cruise, like Mission Impossible. Where he had the pull off the mask and it's Tom Cruise. But now you got a deep fake Tom Cruise guy, which is
I know that, and on TikTok there. It's amazing.
He's awesome. That guy too. Well. I'm addicted to watching that guy.
Yeah.
So what do you hope that people that attend your class, what do you hope that they walk away with?
Well, I think first of all, I'm sure there's going to be several that are somewhat familiar with deepfakes, or at least have heard of them, but probably don't have a really good understanding of the evolution and where and how are they being utilized now, and where are we going to, kind of like the different applications, and how trying to understand not only that this is really a serious problem going forward, but then how do we mitigate this? What are some of the things that need to be done to help better understand these deepfakes? How to better regulate this? Okay, some of these things are outside of our hands. This is in government,
sure.
But more importantly, than for individuals who are working in, for organizations, how might they recognize the deepfakes? And I'm going to share with the audience some tools that are available today, free of charge, where you can upload or a video or the URL to the video, and it's going to give you an indication about whether or not it's a deep fake.
Right.
But then more
important, turn sideways, right? That's the way this thing, right? Just turn to the side, please.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of the stuff that's out there. It's already too late. You can talk about some of these other things gone, man. People rely upon biometrics. They rely upon liveness testing, and it's already. We're already past, and the stuff that people are talking about, it's already too late. Right. I think I'm going to share some ideas regarding verification internally within organizations. If you receive, instructions from somebody via a certain channel of communication, how can you verify that that's actually authentic? And then talk about authentication, multi-authentication domains. Security is never convenient, but I think then there's no foolproof. None of these authentication measures are 100% foolproof. But if we do them in combination, and greatly enhances our ability to make it very difficult for a criminal to get through all these different channels. So I'm going to share some of those things. And I think also from, my understanding, there's a lot of individuals who attend this conference who are investigators, right? Who do open source investigations. So another factor I want to talk about is now, how do they procure evidence, or how do they treat evidence? Because evidence, may also become defaked. So how do we deal with this challenge of,
it's a fair question, right?
Is this evidence real or not real, or how might it be perceived or treated inside of a courtroom? Sure. Right?
How do I even know you're Peter? Prove it.
I know, exactly. I mean, there's going to have to be some means of also utilizing, I don't know if you want to call it, like with videos, like a watermark. I mean, that's not really being done yet, but it's kind of like want to broaden the awareness for the audience regarding these topics, and really keep abreast and try to keep up with the evolution of these things, because it's a matter of a few months. You have a tremendous amount of things that can be happening.
So let's touch on that a little bit, and we're going to wind down just a sec.
Sure.
The future here, the next year, like what would you like to see in this vertical happen?
Well, first of all, in this vertical, I'm hoping that we will see a lot more interest in this topic and a lot more information that's actually shared and published. I subscribe to, you can subscribe to these different channels of publications or articles regarding the topic you're interested in, right? And I subscribed to one recently regarding deepfakes. There's a few articles there, but there's not very many. There's not that much information that's out there. And even the stuff that's out there is very superficial. I think we need to, first of all, be able to get a lot more information regarding deepfakes and the threats of deepfakes.
Sure.
So creating that awareness, right? That's the very first step, is creating that awareness. And then, because if we don't have that awareness, anything that we can suggest as far as verification methods or authentication, multi-authentication, it's not going to work, because people are not going to understand. You got to understand the threat before you can apply procedures to help, deal with the threat. Mm-hmm. I think the first step is going to be creating more of an awareness in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, it's all frontline stuff. All the buzzwords are starting to catch, and I think as we all dig deeper and deeper into the metaverse, and as we're creating our avatars and living our life online as opposed to being a real human being, you're going to see more and more of this being done, and more it being, I guess, scrutinized a little more, just to, a watermark or whatever, to see, to make sure that it's authentic. Right. And,
right.
It's definitely something to be concerned of. I'm excited to learn more about this. And that's what I love about Osmosis. Like, everyone just comes together, folks from different types of industry, that have different expertise. And it's not just the teaching, it's the relationship, it's the hangout. Right. It's the, hey, this is what you used to do. Let me tell you, what I used to do. And then, hey, did you ever come across this problem? How'd you solve that problem? What'd you do when you got there on this? Like, oh, did you hear about this thing or this tool or this resource that's out there? That's one of the beautiful things about Osmosis. And then even like the sponsors, I mean, it's like your head just, when you go and start talking to these guys, like what they do and what they're bringing to the table here. So, so folks, Peter is actually on the online community. If you've signed up for Osmosis virtually or live, you have access to the online community, and you send a request and ask your questions and get a jump on everything. So, Peter, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and talk. I look forward to meeting you in a couple of weeks and shaking your hand and hearing more about your expertise. So, thank you.
Thank you, Matt, very much. It's been a pleasure meeting you virtually, and I do look forward to meeting you in person. I look very much forward to attending the event. Thank you.
Okay, everybody sit tight. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with the next segment. Thanks. You guys have been hearing for a long time about how much I love Crosstracks, but now you're going to hear from somebody else. So we got George Gerges here. George is a member and a user of Crosstracks. George, tell me real quickly what you love about Crosstracks.
The simplicity of using it and the ability to customize everything that you could do with Crosstracks is awesome. It actually allowed me to take the way that I do my business and implement it into their system. And not only am I able to manage 10 or 15 cases, I'm able to manage 50 to 100 cases with the same effort.
Fantastic. So Crosstracks, the case management system, they are SOC 2 certified. Basically, that's an encryption, really an upgrade. They're the only ones out there that are doing it. So please support this great sponsor that supports our show. Check them out. The links are in the show notes. Crosstracks, if you're an investigator, you should be using them today.
It's time to bundle discounts with the Investigator Education Consultants. Bundles are available on the fundamentals of the profession, gumshoe talent, putting it all together, hard-time crime, and pocketbook crime. If you purchase any of these combinations, you'll receive a 10% discount by using the code BUNDLE, BUNDLE. Visit the website at investigationeducation.com. That's investigationeducation.com. Our next guest is Cara Gallus. Cara is a founder and partner of the Achille Group. She is a social media exploitation and threat analyst. We're talking about how foreign language affects OSINT. So please welcome Cara to our next segment.
And welcome everyone to the next segment of PI Perspectives, the OSMOSIS version. Today we have Cara Gallus for our next segment. So Cara, I want to welcome you to the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So you've got an interesting topic. It's not really super techy, but it's super important. Tell me a little bit about what you're going to be talking about at OSMOSIS.
It is. I'm a targeter by background. And so one of the things that always was really important was to be able to prove my case, whether I was in the private sector or the public sector. Somebody has to be able to have confidence and make decisions on what you're doing. And oftentimes we're researching in languages that we don't really speak, whether that's you're investigating gangs, or maybe you are investigating human trafficking, or perhaps you're doing work overseas on vetting potential partners for one of your clients. Right. That often involves having a different language set, something that you probably don't speak all the time. And so by using and documenting that language set, one of the things I want to do is help you go through, document the language set, and also find some selectors that you can use to further your OSINT research.
Right. So for those who aren't in the know or don't really understand what a targeter is, what is that? Can you break that down for me?
So basically, a targeter is an analyst who has to go and gain information or help find an appropriate access point for information, access to a building, access to a person or a company. So basically, you're doing research and vetting, if you will, potential candidates.
Okay. That's great. That's super interesting. Me, I'm not in the military, so I don't really understand those terminologies. So thanks for breaking that down for me. I don't have a military background either. And that's fine. So super interesting stuff. Do you speak any other languages?
I do. I speak Spanish and of course English, but my Spanish is a bit rusty. It's been several years since I've really had to use it in depth. Gotcha. And what led you to get in to do this work? What was the passion behind it? Well, originally I was working I've worked in both private and public sector, about 10 years in the public sector and about 15 years now in the private sector. And when I first started, I was using social media in the public sector to kind of help make videos or campaign videos or kind of use social media and those sort of tools. And I quickly realized that all the people who were trying to use it didn't understand the value of the information that was behind it. Right. So my job quickly turned from helping them discover measures of effectiveness and some of that information that was going along with making videos or social media posts, to really pulling out the information in there that helps exploit or understand more about the target audience, or whether their videos were being effective, or kind of the metadata behind it. Sure. And so as that went on, I started helping some of my colleagues understand that, hey, not only are you putting this stuff out, you can also be taking the information that you have back and start using that in ways to help target or refine your messages, or even help find somebody new who might be able to put your messages out for you.
Yeah, and it's essentially just solving a problem, right? It doesn't have
That's
to
correct.
be a big, clandestine operation. It's just like, here's the issue, here's the target. We need somebody to really focus in on achieving the goal, right? Essentially, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And language is part of that, because whether you're using the information that you're gathering as evidence, or you're going to use it to collect intelligence, for example, or have an individual make a decision, you still have to be able to explain that, the bomb is always the classic example everybody gets. That can mean different things in different contexts. And so you have to be able to translate what that means to the person using your investigation and your information that you've collected into something that they can make a sound decision on or defend in court.
Yeah, and then you can just add emojis into the whole equation as well, because
Oh yeah,
you got to consider, right?
Yes, exactly.
So just amping it up a notch. How would you say that dialects of different languages affect? I mean, that's something I would guess you'd have to really pay attention and understand the dialect of what you're trying to decipher here, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And documenting it is half the battle, but understanding the dialects, I find by writing down kind of words that people are using in a similar context is something I would use them in, is a way to really kind of start to make that thesaurus or dictionary that you're going to put together for your appendixes and the like. But I mean, think about the United States for just a second. If you're in the US, our English, whether you're in Wisconsin or Montana or Virginia or the South or any sort of places, they differ in words there too. So same with English and UK English. So the dialect makes a huge difference.
Sure. Yeah, English stinks. It's the worst language out there. It's really
it is difficult.
You're so problematic. So this is all really, really fascinating stuff to me, because you're now taking it essentially out of the computer. Osmosis has always been, technology driven and this and that, but this is like, this is a skill that's required. It's kind of part of the equation that people don't think about, which I think is really neat.
Yeah, and it's hard to make language really sexy when you're really like investigating and you're going into osmosis and you're like, I'm doing OSINT. But the fact of the matter is that actually I get really excited when I use some of those words that I found, or like a foreign language word. And I couldn't write it in some cases. So if you're talking Chinese, I can't write Chinese, but to start searching in Chinese and then you're finding the information that you need, you get so excited. And I just want somebody else to feel that moment of like elation when you find the piece of the data you needed, but it's in a different language that you had no idea.
What's your opinion on the reliability of like Google Translator and all these tools now that are coming out that we get to use this stuff?
Well, one of the things that I'll talk about at Osmosis that I'm really excited about talking about is these translation tools have come a long way, but they're still not there. And I'll talk a little bit about what the translations tools do and how we should kind of evaluate their validity, so to speak, on your investigation. Right. But there will never be a replacement, at least not in the next 5 years, I believe, of an analyst who can look at this and kind of triage that information. So when we're looking at different languages, and especially foreign languages that someone else can speak really well, we're looking at triaging the information so that we can go back and either be confident in what we found, because we can validate it several times across time and space, right. or we can take that to, say, a linguist or a translator, and they can help us like validate what they're saying there and really get the ground truth. But for the most part, I think, especially things like Google Translate has become pretty effective. Right. But again, by putting those words in context and kind of getting kind of the feel of what is around those words, is really where the sweet spot is, and why the analyst is always going to be a big part of the investigation, even if these translators are translating pages across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I can see how you would always want to have that human element in there, and just not, relying 100% on artificial intelligence, because of these things that you're talking about, right? They're just these little nuances that you got to be able to pick up on it. So, once the computers learn that, we're all in Terminator. We're done. Skynet.
Not really. We're still going to have to run the computer.
Skynet's going to come get us. So what do you want the folks that are taking your class? What do you want them to walk away with?
I want them to walk away with great practices and kind of a methodology that they can use to help be more confident when they deliver their investigations to whoever the end user might be, whether it's court or business or the government of some sort. I also want them to walk away understanding that this isn't just about a foreign language, like meaning English and Spanish. This is more about really documenting and understanding who your investigation target is and how they speak and what their vernacular is. Because as I've found as I've gone along through this process, and I've done investigations in probably 25 languages at this point. Wow. One of the things that you start to find is as you do this, you become more comfortable, and it applies to any sort of language that you're looking at. But you also start to build, especially if you're in a subject matter that you're investigating all the time, maybe it's weapons, you start to see what those long-term words are across multiple languages, and that really gives you kind of the power of understanding where you're going to find your next lead, so to speak.
Oh, it's important. I think when you're talking about like social engineering and building rapport and things like that, this is all part of the puzzle. You got to be able to do that. So where do you see, or what would you like to see in the next year or so within this vertical of what we do as far as advancements go?
That's a tough question. I want to continue to see the technology evolve. I want to continue to see more focus on better documentation. I want to continue to see kind of more of a professionalization and an understanding of different places that you can go for information, and kind of a creativity from the analyst side on solving these problems as well.
Yeah, it seems to be an ongoing theme this year from the folks that I've interviewed, just having that oversight and community, and continue to build on that, which I think is really interesting. So, okay, so we'll be at OSMOSIS, and I'm looking forward to actually seeing this class. Again, I think it's so interesting because it's not the, have the computer in front of you and go to this and do that. There's some real training involved here and just hard skills, right? Which is really, really cool. So, okay, so folks, go check out OSMOSIS. It's in October, and you can just Google OSMOSIS Con 22 and you'll get all the information. Cara, thank you so much for joining us, and everybody sit tight for the next segment.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Are you a member of NCISS? Do you know what this great organization does? The National Council of Investigation and Security Services was formed in 1975 to keep a watchful eye on legislation that affects our industry. Now more than ever, there are data privacy and DMV issues popping up all over the country. Consider joining and supporting this much-needed watchdog for our industry. Learn more at nciss.org. Looking for an insurance agent that puts you first? Every PI business is different. That's why OREP Insurance can shop multiple markets to ensure you get the best coverage to meet your unique business needs. OREP's model is business by the golden rule, and for over 20 years, they've built their business by putting their clients first. So come enjoy a fast online application and same-day certificates of insurance at OREP.org. OREP has coverage for armed investigators, executive protection, and even has a separate policy for security firms. The application takes less than 5 minutes, so visit OREP.org today, orep.org. Check out the latest issue of PI Magazine, available online or by hard copy. It's time to jump into our last segment of this episode. Allison Sullivan will join a panel of OSINT experts and talk about trends and threats in OSINT. So please welcome Allison Sullivan to our last segment.
Welcome to PI Perspectives, the OSMOSIS version. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today, our next guest is Allison Sullivan. Allison, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Matt. How are you?
Good, good. Thanks for jumping on and talking about your topic. So tell me a little bit about what you do, who you work for, and what you'll be talking about.
Sure. So I am leading the team of analysts here at Cobwebs Technologies. We are a global open source web intelligence company, helping everyone sort through all of the data that is publicly available out in the open, the dark, and the deep web. My passion is working with our law enforcement customers. I've been with the company for nearly 4 years, but prior to that, I was an intel analyst for 17. I started my career in Cambridge, Massachusetts at the local PD. Spent a couple of years back home in New Jersey Transit PD, and then the last 12 of my career with East Orange, New Jersey Police Department. So
there's the Hetherington hook right there.
Absolutely.
You had her at New Jersey.
Absolutely, a Jersey girl at heart.
Yeah.
Born and raised. I left for a few years to be in Boston and Cambridge, but I had to come home.
Oh, there you go. That's cool. I'm Jersey too. I'm Bergen County.
There you go.
We're all cousins.
That's right.
Yeah, that's cool. Very cool. Cobwebs has been a sponsor for a few years, and someone from Cobwebs actually has spoken at the conference before. This year, we're doing something different, right? It's more of like an OSINT panel. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so one of the sessions that we got invited to participate on was the panel on our last day here. And, we did a panel once before with the Hetherington group. We hosted the panel. It was a virtual event as well, kind of talking about the role that OSINT plays in security events, such as Super Bowls or concerts, and how leveraging open sources can really help you not only have a little bit more education on what to expect at the event, whether or not it's politically involved, or whether it's just enjoyment like music, or if there's any opposing crowds. Right. And not only preventatively or pre-event, but also during the event or even post, in terms of brand management and reputation online. So what we'll be talking about is really everyone's view from the world of OSINT from about 5,000-foot view. How we see it working with everyone's day-to-day obligations, whether it be in the public or private sector, how we can leverage those resources available to better our jobs and responsibilities, and really learning from each other. I think that's the best thing that we can do. Not one person knows it all. So seeing how someone else is leveraging OSINT tools can definitely be a help for everybody.
Sure. What are the trends that you've seen in the past year or two that seem to be gaining steam?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I don't know if I want to call it a trend, but something to keep up on, are the new platforms. Okay. I feel like every day there's a new platform available. I think we were talking about Yik Yak yesterday, and I know that that's not a new one, but it's not necessarily a mainstream one that possibly the media would focus on. With some of the critical incidents that happen in our country, we get exposure to different platforms. But this one being a new one that our company and our team are looking at in terms of what can get filtered through in terms of an open source perspective. So, trending, everybody is on social media, on forums, on blogs. It's been that way for a while, and I don't see it stopping anytime soon. Sure. So it's really our responsibility to stay up to the pulse and see what's coming up next, and what we need to educate ourselves on in terms of how people are using these platforms, and how the platforms are almost, using their customers. Are they protecting their customers? Are they anonymous forums? Are there things that we can extract in terms of a public safety point of view? Yeah. Really educating yourself on these platforms is going to really help you out with your daily duties.
Oh, that's fascinating. I mean, I guess everything's for sale.
Yeah.
So, you never know.
We're all here for corporate America. We're all here, there's targeting ads out there, and it's, you think you're scrolling through one site and now you're getting the advertisement for that same exact item that you're looking for. We are walking money makers for commercial.
Somewhere Zuckerberg's hiding in a corner laughing maniacally, right? It's all good stuff.
Yeah, it's sad but true,
Yeah. So what do you hope the folks that are attending the panel, what do you hope they're walking away with?
I hope that they're walking away of looking at things in a different perspective. I don't think a lot of people in my field in terms of law enforcement really realize that they're using open source sources, for lack of a better term, on a daily basis. Once you Google something, you're performing an open source action. So I hope that people walk away from our panel and our discussion looking at things from a different perspective in terms of how you operate at home can also be leveraged over to your professional side of the house.
Sure.
Meaning that if you're monitoring your children's social media activity, if you're monitoring their browsing history, things like that can definitely be applied to your daily activities. Some people don't necessarily marry the two.
Yeah.
And we think that we kind of live in verticals or certain sectors, pre-work day, post-work day, but they all intertwine. And our job, is to really make the community a safer one, not only in reality, but also virtually.
Yeah.
So we're protecting our children at home, but we want to bring that over into our workspace as well. So I'm really hoping that not only the panel members, but also our audience members and attendees really walk away with something like that. And it may be the opposite. Maybe it's something they're doing on a daily basis that they can now bring home in order to better protect their families. So it goes both ways, but that's what I'm really hoping to walk away from that with.
Well, that's a very novel idea. I'll support that one.
Yeah, hey, the hashtag OSINT for good. I mean, there's plenty of ways to use it, not only using it in terms of victim recovery or human trafficking cases and things like that, or national events coming up and you want to protect the safety of your attendees, but little ones at home are just as important.
Yeah. I mean, Net Nanny can only do so much, right?
Either that or she needs pay raise. That's the other thing you get her.
So what do you want to see happen in the next year or two in this industry?
Oh, geez. I think education. I think education in terms of what is really being shared on these sites. I follow a lot of OSINT for Good groups on LinkedIn and on other social media platforms, and seeing what they are doing with open source technologies or open source platforms are ways that I would have never thought about it. Yeah. Some, speaking about children at home, they're so vulnerable to potentially becoming victims, and we don't know it. Some of us don't know it and know the means. Having the education end, not only in terms of children becoming vulnerable, but also for parents and educators to really share that knowledge. For example, if Snapchat is one of the largest, and I say if it's I know that it's a largely used platform in terms of luring children or luring potential victims, really educating people on how those predators are doing that. You can tell I'm coming from that OSINT for Good space. One of the missions here at Cobwebs Technologies is really helping the fight against human trafficking. And that's where we really, really pride ourselves on using our OSINT for Good. And so I'm a really big proponent on that education theme in terms of not only end users, but, parents, professionals, in all scopes of, your day-to-day activities.
Yeah, it's been pretty impressive to see how Cobwebs has grown in the last few years, because they've been supporters of OSMOSIS, and usually they have a booth there, and just checking out and seeing the new stuff that they're doing and leading the way, which is pretty neat. Okay, so we're gonna wind down here. Thank you so much for coming on and just giving a little snippet of what you'll be talking about. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person, and
Awesome.
we're getting closer and closer here, which is great. So, folks, if you haven't signed up yet, please go check out OSMOSIS.com, and you can get all the information on there. And hopefully, we'll see you in Tampa. I know I'll be there. So. It'll be really great. So thanks everyone for checking this episode out. Well, I think we have one more Osmosis featurette coming up in a few weeks, but this was great. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Allison, thank you so much.
Thank you, Matt.
We'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
The countdown to St. Pete and Osmosis 2022 is on. Make sure you check all the details for Osmosis at osmosiscon.com. Thanks also to Crosstrack, Scope Now, Investigator Education Consultants, OREP, and NCISS for sponsoring the show. So please support these great supporters. And don't forget to join Scope Now's great event on September 15th from 9 a.m. through 5:30 p.m. online. Learn more at scopenow.com/OSINT-live. Have you thought about joining Investigator's Toolbox? Take advantage of the half-price offer that ends at the end of this week. Use code EPISODE157. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.